Welcome, everybody. Kevin Kaufman up there with the hat. My name's Fred Weaver, and we're excited, like incredibly excited today to announce and introduce you to our friend, your friend, Keith Riddle, who has joined us here at eXp Realty. His move and transition, moving his entire brokerage over to eXp is complete. And man, Keith, it's been a long time coming. I know, man. You've been building something for a long time, putting a transition plan in for a long
Yeah,
time. Welcome to eXp, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. It's exciting. I walked into my office this morning and it just felt different, in a good way. So I always like as you get older in life, I always kind of relate different things. And one of the things that I've always loved is going outdoors and camping and hiking and hunting and doing that kind of stuff. And as I've gotten older in life, I've started to kind of enjoy the process of the planning or the preparation or the build up to some of these events, because it's not just about the 5 days that you're in the mountains, even though that's what you're building towards. I think earlier in my life I didn't appreciate the build up as much. I was just so excited and so anxious to get where I wanted to go, and then as you get older, you're like, man, it's a lot of fun to figure out what you're going to take and what you're not going to take and where you're going to go and how you're going to get there, and so. That's been a lot with this eXp, right? We've been talking about transitioning my independent brokerage and merging it with eXp for a while, and this happens to be the week. So today's the day, and this is the week, and I'm excited. But it's been a lot of work in the background and a lot of planning, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. It's allowed me to really look at my business from another angle, and it's allowed me to not only make this move with confidence, but also to bring some excitement to the table, because when you're enjoying that process leading up to it. It makes the day of it even more fun. So, yeah.
Give us a little summary of just kind of your life and evolution as a real estate agent, a real estate business person, a brokerage owner. A lot of people that are watching this know you, but for those that don't or need a refresher, give us a little, kind of look into how we got here, if you will.
Right. Well, I'm going to try to summarize 20 years in 2 minutes. Reader's Digest version, right? I got into real estate like a lot of people do, at the whim of a friend, and didn't know it was going to be a lifelong career. And it's turned into that. But I had a great mentor, started on a group or a team, was a buyer's agent. And within 2 or 3 years, man, I'd put up a lot of production. This is 04, 05, and was able to buy out a previous business partner. And I had my own team. And so 28, 29, I had a team of 5 or 6, got really into internet lead generation and creating leads. And so was able to start pumping 200, 300, 400 transactions a year out of a real estate team at a former brokerage. Went independent eventually. That was about a decade ago. I went independent, left the previous firm I worked at, and took a group or a team and just built it into an independent office. Started with 12 agents, bought this really funky Masonic lodge in a little eclectic part of town, and it looked like a church. Converted it into a real estate office, and it just grew from there. I mean, I went from 12 agents to 20 to 30 to 50 to 80 to 100, and I think at our peak we were right around 135, 137 agents running the independent brokerage. And I guess all of that is to say, at the same exact time I was building a lot of other stuff, right? I'm an entrepreneur by nature, and so I've always been interested in real estate investing. So fixing, flipping, rentals, and I've got 60, 70 doors, rental doors. I'm currently in a 62 unit development apartment project. I've just really liked the investment aspect of it, and I've always kind of brought that to the table with the sales aspect. And at one point, just really realized I was into too many things. I was running too many different businesses, and I didn't have the leverage to run an independent brokerage. I didn't wake up every day with just a fire on my rear end saying, man, I want to charge into growing a brokerage or owning a brokerage. And it was taking up a lot of time and a lot of resources. So I love the people I work with. I love growing synergy. And I think that really this opportunity with eXp is going to allow for both of those things, but it allows me to put my attention into development, into real estate investing, into kind of entrepreneurial endeavors. I've owned restaurants in the past. I've had other licensed appointed contracting companies. I mean, I like startups. I like creating new opportunity for people. And without the strings of a brokerage holding me down, I think that's really what I'm charging into now. So.
So
I don't know,
couple
is that
things.
Reader's Digest enough? I mean, I feel like we skipped a lot.
Yeah.
That was
Dude,
great, man.
I mean, there's a lot to point out, Keith, but here's what I want to do if you'll indulge me for a minute. First of all, I just want to acknowledge, like, as a side, I love that you're like 60 to 70 doors. You don't know how many. I'm like, I still know exactly how many doors I have, which is one of the reasons I'm excited to partner with you and like just to spend more time around you, is because that's part of my game that I'm constantly trying to get better at. And I know Fred is, and so many people in our group. That's a side note. What I want to get to, and you started to go there, but I think that sounds to me, and if I'm putting your words in your mouth, correct me, sounds to me like you sort of accidentally became an independent brokerage owner and then it really grew. And I think most people in our industry, we have this perceived, I guess, career path might be the best word to use, that like, hey, I'm going to come in as an agent. Like I let you started as a buyer's agent on a team, and maybe we're going to work up to becoming a solo agent, maybe starting our own team. And I feel like for most people in the career path traditionally in our business has been like, I'm going to get to that pinnacle of it's going to be my name on the door. Like I'm going to be the broker owner. And I think for a lot of people, that has been the top of it. But what I just heard from you, and also what I know of you, because I've known you for so long, like that wasn't your pinnacle. Tell me more about that. What was it about making a move now at this point in your career? Because from the outside, dude, you seem like you're at the top of your game on investing. You owned a really good size independent brokerage, like much larger than average. It's making money. Obviously,
Yeah,
something like that.
again, I've really enjoyed this process the last few weeks, and I'm sure you guys are in a similar phase. I had a conversation with a good friend of ours, Brian Gubernick, the other day, and we were joking around, and he called this like my midlife crisis or something, and we were laughing back and forth. But really, like you get to that middle age ish mark, right? Like I'm 43. And I think that right now I'm very attuned and I'm very aware of like young entrepreneurs versus more seasoned entrepreneurs or business owners. And as a young entrepreneur, it was a very simplistic mindset of like, can I build it and build it by doing more, right? So if I'm selling 200 doors, can I sell 300? If I got 5 rental properties, can I get 10 rental properties? And not that you're not concerned with quality or doing it better. It's just that you are in a phase of your life where more is what you're trying to do to build. And then also there's some real truth to the fact that you get better by doing more, right? Like repetitio est mater est instant. It's like a repetition is the mother of education. And the issue though is that it is those reps have to be the right reps, right? Like if you're practicing poor form or if you're too busy to slow down and actually like correct stuff. And you see this with like athletes and stuff, like Tiger Woods at one point in time had to like readjust his whole swing. I can't imagine how awkward that'd be to be one of the best golfers in the world and have to like readjust your swing because it's starting to hurt your hips or your back, or you didn't learn to swing properly, but even though it took you so far. And so all this is to say is that like, yeah, I think that I chased it as a young entrepreneur, like a lot of people did. And so I was like, well, yeah, like I'll just have my own firm, right? I'll do my own. And you're agreeing to do things at a young age or as a kind of a beginner that you don't really fully know what you're committing yourself to. And so it wasn't bad, and I learned a lot, and it was a great journey. But I think a lot of times if we see an opportunity, and that opportunity makes sense, and we have the financial or the time available to do it, we just do it. And as I've learned through life, that's not the best practice. And I think that you'll see that with a lot more seasoned entrepreneurs. I mean, like we've all heard the advice, but how many of us actually practice the advice of like saying no to good ideas? And you'll hear old business owners and entrepreneurs say, it's like, hey man, just because it's a good idea doesn't mean you have to do it. And I didn't have that wiring, right? So the first decade and a half of me, it was like, hey man, I got the money and I got the time and this is a good idea, like let's go. But the problem is that it does stack up over time to overcommitting to too many things. And even if they're good, they rob your greatness, right? It really will steal your greatness. Like your inability to be great in any specific area or even a couple is going to be robbed by you being overcommitted to too many things. And so I don't regret doing it, but I think one of the things that I'm really in tune with now is like not making those same mistakes. But it's really killing me to watch young entrepreneurs and young business owners that I'm in relationship with make similar mistakes and be like, no, don't do that. Like you don't want to do that. You're going to regret that in 5 years. But teach their own.
One follow-up there, Keith. I think during that sort of growing up process, there was probably some things inside your brokerage that you recognized I really love. And there's a bunch of other things you inherited in running a brokerage and some other things in your life that you realize, like, this is not what I had all set out and planned to do. With this move, like, how does that all play out? Like, I'm guessing a lot of this move for you was removing some of the stuff that you never wanted. But how does Keith continue to stay engaged with real estate agents going forward? And what has this move to EXP done to maybe enhance that or to narrow that focus?
Yeah, I think that I gave this analogy to you guys the other week, and I think I was just talking out loud. But for me, the real aha came when I realized that like owning a brokerage for the longest time, I told myself was kind of the doorway into a lot of the other things that I wanted. And so I kind of self-explained to myself that, like, hey, being an independent business owner and having my independent brokerage and agents allows me to feed into a lot of investment deals, right? Like I get a lot of opportunities for fix and flip projects or a lot of opportunities for development projects because of the agents and the sphere that I'm running in. And I get a lot of these like ancillary benefits. And the analogy that I made was like, it's like the sawdust or the wood chips to the sawmill, right? And back in the day, like sawmills basically, like they made all their money off of like linear board feet, right? You ran trees and lumber through a sawmill, and that's where the money was in the 2x4s and the 2x6s, and all of this sawdust that kind of sat in the corner was like given away for free. People mulched it in their gardens. There was like big piles of all these lumber yards. Well, with technology and the change of the lumber industry, right? Like there's so many more glulam beams, there's so many more compressed and composite stuff that all of a sudden a lot of these lumber mills started realizing there's a ton of money in this sawdust, right? There's a ton of money in these wood chips. And so I think in my mind, I was using my brokerage as like that the linear board feet. Let's do this, and let's like for the opportunity for all the wood chips. And then I just woke up one day, I was like, I should let somebody else run the sawmill. Like I'm not doing a good job, quite frankly. I don't have an interest in it. And when I say I'm not doing a good job, I don't mean like anybody really probably noticed. I don't know that people that work for me thought, oh, Keith's just doing a terrible job running this brokerage. I think it was running fine. In my heart, right, is what I'm talking about. Like I didn't feel like I was giving it my all. I didn't feel like I was being the best broker owner to the agents that work there. That I should have been or could have been, because I wanted the wood chips, right? Like what I wanted was to be out here doing all these entrepreneurial, fun, cool things. And I was running the brokerage as obligation to what I thought I needed to do to get the opportunity at the other things. And I don't know if it's just a light bulb moment or if it's just like you learn over time, but at some point in time, it was like, hey, I've done the same thing in my fix and flip business. I mean, I used to buy houses, renovate them, sell them, and it was like I was going to be the agent when I bought them. I was going to be the agent when I sold them. I was going to do the work myself, or I was going to have a licensed and bonded contracting company that I was part owner in. And I was going to hire my own contracting company to work on my own flips. And I did it. And then at some point in time, you're like, you're mediocrely successful at these things, or you're not very successful at running a contracting company, or like you're agitated, you're irritated, or you're not even like being your best self as an agent trying to represent yourself on a flip. And so like it all changed, right? To this day, I typically don't find my own flips. They're dropped in my lap, or people find them for me with I've outlined criteria. If I finish a flip, I don't sell that flip. I give it to an agent in my office or an agent I trust to list it. I hire great licensed and bonded contractors to do the work. It was a more thing. It just made sense in my mind to control the process from A to B. And then what I realized is like, no, I just need to be really great at one thing. And that's just like identifying opportunity and executing. And so I don't know, this has been a little bit of my journey, I guess.
I mean, it's quite the journey. Like you say that now, really with like a lot of ease, and it sounds like, yeah, almost no duh, but I mean, you went through a lot of lessons and a lot of stuff to learn along the way that probably helped you get this clear. I guess what I'm saying is you sound very clear, and sometimes clarity doesn't come without those repetitions, and it doesn't come without those experiences.
Yeah, and you guys have probably experienced this as well, and I think it's one of the most how do you say this? Success like there's so much of success that is intuitive for people who have a drive and entrepreneurial spirit. And yet there's so much of success that is not intuitive. Matter of fact, it's almost like, it's anti-intuitive a word? It's the opposite of intuitive. And I think that's the story of my life over the last probably like 5 years. What I realized is like, there was not being successful, then there was being successful, and then there was having a level of success that really like separated me from a lot of people in the real estate industry. But when I started to plateau there, I realized like the people who were above where I weren't doing it the same. As a matter of fact, they were doing a lot of things that like didn't make sense to me. Like, why are they pulling out of this business venture? Or like, why are they not committed to this other crazy idea or this next new investment? And it's because they learned, right? They learned that the nuances of success, a lot of times what the same qualities that get us successful or help us become successful are the same qualities that hold us back from reaching our next level of success. And that's really hard when all you've known essentially is like win after win after win after win with that same behavior. So I've always said like it's just as important to me how you act when you win as you lose. And so this last downturn for me was very revealing, and it was very interesting to watch agents and watch real estate people around me when they were losing, right? When it wasn't fun anymore, when it wasn't easy. And so for some of us that started, like I got my start in like 05, 06. I'd already been through a downturn. So not that you love it, but you kind of know what to expect. But that's also really when I built my business. Like I built my staple business in a downturn. And so I wasn't necessarily like looking forward to it, but silently I think I was, right? Like I was grinning a little bit when I saw interest rates starting to creep and house prices starting to come down, because I was like, okay, here it comes, right? And a lot of these agents didn't have the skill set to compete. And that's not a shot at anybody. It's just that you haven't had that experience. And so it's just, I got that experience really young. And so it just made sense that 1 or 2 years in the business, I experienced a downturn. Also, so you have that experience really young and then you build a career. A lot of people have been in the business 6, 7, 8 years, had never experienced it. And so they were overly confident in their abilities when the downturn happened. And so I think, I don't know, I try to be reflective, I guess, is the easiest way to say it, of my actions, my activity, my results, and also those people around me, and try to be a student of the game. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Why are they doing that? And then like, hey, how did this actually work out? And a high tide floats all boats. And so I think a rising market for a period of time was very forgiving to a lot of bad businesses, some of my own included.
No doubt. Well, I mean, I guess the big question, Keith, is, all right, at some point you woke up one day and you're like, I just don't want to own the sawmill anymore, right? I'm done owning an independent brokerage. There's a lot of different routes you could have gone to no longer be the owner and designated broker of a brokerage. So ultimately you chose EXP. Give me a couple of reasons. I don't care if it's like 1 or 2 major reasons, or maybe for you there's 4 or 5. But what made you make that choice? Because I promise you, there's somebody out there listening right now. They're in a similar position. Maybe they own an independent brokerage, or maybe they're running a mega team like you did prior to your brokerage. But the point is they're thinking about their options right now too. What was it for you that made you go, you know what? I am going to go this way. Let's do the EXP thing here.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of them, right? So for the sake of brevity, I'll just hit a few of them. But I think the first thing is that I always tend to look at the business as an operator, and not that I'm not still a real estate agent as I am, but I haven't been a real estate agent in the saddle for years and years and years. So I tend to look as like a team owner or an independent brokerage owner. And I could say right now, if you are an independent brokerage owner, or if you are a team owner, I would ask you a similar question as to like, why are you not at EXP? And like, if where you're at is better, show me, right? Or if what you're doing is better, show me. Because, and I don't mean that as a challenge. I just mean like, that's how I had to talk to myself at some point in time, because I don't know that I came to the realization like, there's running from pain, and then there's running towards pleasure. But I don't know if I came to the realization of like, oh my gosh, I just hate my life so much. I don't want to do this anymore. I need a solution. It was just more like, you're paying attention, you're watching the industry and watching the market and watching other agents coming into the industry. And it's like, it's splits, it's caps, it's costs, it's, agent tools. And realistically, it was like every day there was a new brokerage open up that seemed to be charging like lower fees than maybe my brokerage or other brokerages. So you're like, you wonder as a broker owner, like, how do they do that? Teams were constantly increasing agent splits. You know, somebody's like a buyer's agent on someone's team and they're on a 70-30 split or an 80-20 split. You're like, well, how did they pencil that? Like, I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm kind of curious how their margins work. And so you start asking yourself those questions and looking around. And I think that the brokerage world, in my opinion, if I'm just going to be totally transparent, it's a race to the bottom. It's a weird system where brokerages are trying to offer the most amount of tools and resources that they can to agents to say, like, look at me, we give you all these things, we'll build you a website, we'll give you leads, we'll give you all this stuff. Oh, but you can pay us as little as possible. As a matter of fact, if you pay that broker over there this, we'll take X minus this, right? Like, they're going to like flat fees, they're going to high splits, they're decreasing caps, and they're trying to constantly play at both ends of the spectrum. So for me, it didn't take very long as an independent broker. Like, I mean, it took me a decade, but it didn't take me long as an independent broker that was looking for solutions to start realizing that, I wasn't going to ever compete with national brokerages as a local independent, as far as what I could offer my agents for the price and be able to compete with the split cap structures at the same time. And the reason for that, right, is it's volume based. And so there's only a few models that I think that I really started looking at after that. I think there's about 4 or 5. And I was like really interested in how their economics worked. And EXP just flat out has really good economics. And I mean, we can have this conversation, back and forth, but I mean, the cash that it holds and the amount of money that the company itself has in reserves is impressive. And they've done that while building agent count, and the way they've done that while building across countries and giving the agents more and more tools. And so that really intrigued me, I guess. Is like just being a student of the game. It's the same thing. If I meet a house flipper or developer who's building projects for like a third of what I can build them for, or they're building them faster, like, how come I just put 2 up in the last year and this guy's built 8, right? Or how come my cost per square foot is $280 a square foot and they're at $230 a square foot? I'm just curious. And so EXP, I think, just came on my radar because of their massive growth, because of some of the attention that they got. But ultimately, I didn't pay attention initially until I started to see other agents that I really respected and cared for, like you guys, that started to choose EXP. And I thought, man, must be something more to this company that I need to dive into. And then after you start diving down that rabbit hole, like, yeah, for me, it was real simple. And I don't mean to say it that way, but it's not real complex. It's like, it's the resources and the tools, it's the financial breakdown, and it's the support, right? And if you can start meeting those buckets and you're competitive in all 3 of them, it was a no-brainer at some point in time. And I wouldn't say I kicked myself for not looking at it sooner. I think everything, for me, this is the perfect time, but I would say that I am glad that I found it, and I'm not charging into what I would consider this next chapter of the real estate market as an independent. I don't envy for any independents right now in the next 5 to 10 years, and or large team owners, right?
The thing I want to highlight of what you just said, or at least what stuck out to me, I think maybe it sticks out to me because it's something I've worked on personally, is in order for you to say what you just said, that tells me you're someone that challenges your own thoughts. Like, the fact that you could even ask those questions about yourself and your brokerage, as well as EXPs, and just know, like you said, it very sort of matter of factly, but you don't get to that point unless you challenge, and it's not even challenges, but it's having an honest conversation with yourself and asking questions. And then just like whatever the answer is what the answer is. You pointed out, like, the economics of it are really great. Those are all things where I think in a lot of people, I'm not even just gonna say the real estate world, just a lot of people in the world, like, we tend to have emotions in our answers rather than being able to ask ourselves a question and then just go, oh, well, this is the answer. Not, yeah, but like, you just like, you sounded very like matter of fact. And I appreciate that about you, because that tells me that you've been able to kind of challenge and get past whatever emotions or feelings you might have about something, whether it's something you own, like a brokerage, or something you don't own, like a different brokerage.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think that I've always had this trouble with the industry, and I like it again. Not taking shots at anybody, but I think that the real estate industry and entrepreneurial type industries tend to promote a certain level of self-promotion. Like, you're expected to do it. You're supposed to promote yourself. look at me, I'm out here taking a listing today. Hey, look at me, I just sold this house with this client. You know, you're shaking hands, give him key. I mean, and for me, it's like being in the industry as long as I have, you know, you kind of get sick of that, right? Like watching agents shamelessly self-promote all day long their activity. And I always wonder if like other industries, you know, there should be some spoof videos online of like, you know, if construction workers were realtors or something, and it would just be like some guy standing next to a 2x4 and he's like, look at this, I just nailed in today. 8 a.m. already nailed in 1 2x4. Just putting my stats on my social. They're so proud of doing their job. And again, I think that for me, removing my ego from my business was always something I was cognitively aware of, because I saw so much damage that it did. It was annoying to me to watch that stuff, or has been over the years, but also, you know, looking at other people I respect that are builders, developers, you know, brokerage owners, team owners, and watching, and you guys have seen it too. You guys have watched people build teams of like, let's say 8 to 10 agents, and then they collapse back to 2, and then they build up to 8 to 10 and they collapse back to 3, and then they build up to 15. And it's like, because they can't get their ego out of the way, right? Like they'll lose good people over their own ego, right? Or they fail to develop leadership underneath of them because of their ego. And so I think when you see enough people make enough mistakes based on their ego, then you start to just ask yourself, like, I'm not perfect. I got, you guys know me, I got a fair amount of ego for sure. But you start to ask yourself, like, can I stop and remove my ego and myself from this situation and look at it holistically and not have my identity tied to my business? And that was really hard for me initially as a young agent. But the company that, you know, the independent firm I just rolled into EXP is called Synergy Properties, and it's named Synergy for a reason. I named Synergy Properties because it was a point in my life when I wanted to go out and to do something that was bigger than me. And I named the company. It wasn't Riddle Real Estate. It wasn't like my last name. It wasn't something that like I had an identity tied to. It was a concept or an idea, right, of multiple forces coming together to create a result that none of them can create on their own, right? Synergy is a very it's commonly used phrase in like chemistry or in science, right? And it's like when molecules bond, right? Hydrogen and oxygen create water. Neither can do that without the other. And so for me, that was like the basis of how I started my business. And so I don't think you can name a company Synergy Properties and tell everybody it's about like that's what it's about, and then have a strong ego in it. And so I've always tried to kind of, even if you're not perfect on a day-to-day basis of that, taking those times out to stop and reflect and remove yourself from the process and ask some hard questions. And so, yeah, I think when I was looking at transferring to EXP, I would be lying to you if you don't naturally ask yourself, what's everybody else's reaction going to be? Like, what are the agents that work with me and for me in my independent firm, like, are they going to want to go? Are they going to come with me? But like, what's the industry going to say, right? Like, and you have that little like voice in the side of your head is like, man, like, what are all my competitors going to say about me? Like, what's everybody going to think about me? And for, you know, a brief moment it comes in, and then I just had to like click it off. It's like, it's irrelevant, right? Like, if I'm trying to make the best business decision for me and for the agents that work for me and for the future, like, if I start to consider how other people are going to think or believe in me because of those decisions, like, I'm already starting on the wrong foot. And I'm telling you right now, if I'm talking through this camera transparently to somebody who's a large team owner or an independent brokerage, I guarantee you that's what's holding them back, right? If there's anything holding them back from considering EXP or any sort of merger, it's probably their ego, or it's probably something in the back of their mind that says, like, I don't know if I could swallow what everybody would say or think about me if I did something that, you know, they deemed not good or something. So you have to have some, if you stay in this business long enough, you have to have some alligator skin. But for me, I had to block that out, right? When I was looking at EXP and all the other options, and I won't name names, but I looked at about 4 or 5 fairly competitive brokerage houses. It was like, it wasn't about Keith, and it wasn't about like what the perception was going to be. It was about the best business decision I could make, and I just had to stick to my guns that way.
Appreciate you sharing that. What's next for Keith Riddle? What's next for Synergy Properties? How does that all play into this move at EXP? Like, what's coming up, man? Like, I feel like the EXP tribe and community just grew a lot stronger with the Synergy Properties edition, hands down. I know that happened. But what do you foresee? What do you foresee happening here in coming 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, and you'll notice probably I smile bigger when you ask these questions, because that's like really where I'm at. And so I've been dealing with this decision and the merger between my firm and EXP for so long. I'm looking forward to this being over, not in a bad way, but just being like, great, we're here now, let's rock. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, for Keith personally, I think that even just in like probably the last 2 months, what I've noticed is having some more clarity and being able to I'm more effective. It's the weirdest thing, Fred. It's the weirdest thing. Like I feel like I can get more done now in 3 hours than I could get done in 3 hours before. And that is so weird for a person who, like, I've always felt like I'm a high producer, I'm efficient, but I don't think that I realized the toll that the amount of things I was committed to and trying to handle was taking away from my ability to be effective in moments. And so it's like, yeah, I don't want to work this much, but I also would love to work. I'd love to get this much done. I just don't want to have to work this much to get this much done. And so for me, yeah, it's really, I'm trying to commit to, no more than basically 2 or 3 big boulders moving forward over the next year, and really kind of planning my day and my week around them. So I've kind of committed, a portion of my week, 3 days a week, to really making sure this EXP transition with my office and the merger is successful, and growing EXP through my local market in Spokane. Spokane is a great market, and I'm excited to bring EXP to it. And then really 2 days a week, I'm focused on like investments and development stuff. So I mentioned it earlier, but I got a 62 unit that way. They're just putting the 3rd story on this week. I got a 32 unit slated for the spring. I'm just looking at a variety of different projects and deals over the next 12 months that I like to work on, and then just doing as much family time and hunting and fishing as possible for Keith. Because that's really what I like to do in my leisure time. So that's it, man. Nothing super exciting other than just run of the mill development and real estate.
I think it is exciting, man. One of the taglines that Kevin and I saw, written on walls and on banners and stuff when we joined EXP early on was like EXP Realty, making real estate fun again. And maybe for you, the word fun isn't quite the connection, but there's an energy that's back inside of you, and it's like coming through right now on camera. I could just feel it, where it's like you're pumped up, you're excited, like there's something fresh, there's something new, there's like getting rid of some other stuff, right, that has freed you up to be able to get more done in the hours that you are working. And I appreciate everything you've said today, man. Just from agents should be taking a look at this, independent broker owners should be looking at this, teams should be, and asking ourselves, why am I not at EXP, right? And I hope your story, and more importantly, maybe even less the words you said, and just more of like kind of your energy, dude, and just who you are, your aura right now is like really strong. And like, it's just there's something to this, right? There's this thing that the longer we're in business, the more stuff we collect, and we kind of just pile it on, and this more weight we carry around with us. And like, we have to stop every once in a while and say, like you said earlier with your flipping business, like, do I really need to be the guy that owns the contracting business? And do I really need to be the agent that represents myself on the purchase and list this property on the sale? Or like, should I maybe just free some of that stuff up so I can be more of me? And I think this is almost a return to maybe what you're kind of what you were always about, right? It's just more clarity and more definition now around who you are and what you bring to the industry. And you have so much to share, man. I'm excited to watch EXP in Spokane and throughout explode.
No, I appreciate that, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the help over the last 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months making this happen. And I am excited. Is it weird that I feel a little bit guilty about it too, in the sense of like, I've had like multiple conversations with other independent office owners that I know here locally and around, and they've called, and I'm like, just in the conversation, I'm smiling ear to ear. They're just like, dude, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm so happy I'm not sitting where you're sitting anymore. It's just one of those things, man. I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter. And also, I think that when you have excitement like that, like use it, right? And that momentum is huge. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to is, yeah, I feel like a kid again. I do. I know I'm 43. I got plenty of gray hair. But I feel like I'm, a buyer's agent again for the first time. Like the amount of time and energy that I have right now and like what I can get done is exciting to me. So, I'm trying not to giggle. That's like, I'm trying to like keep my, it's like, I don't know, I feel like I'm at everybody else's funeral and I'm just like trying to like keep my composure. I'm sorry.
We was talking to a buddy of ours that's in the process of joining EXP right now as well. Not an independent brokerage owner, but rather large team owner. And he was giddy too, because he was like, I feel like I'm building again. And I'm like, yeah, it is like, it's that whole making real estate fun again. Is at a certain point you get in this business and you have a lot of success or certain levels of success. And then you're just running your business, and we're doing what we got to do every day, because that's part of the industry, right? Like it's boredom management to a degree. But then there's something like this that's like totally in alignment with what we're already doing. And it's like, this is fun. Like, this is really fun. In fact, that person's calling me right now. I can see on my watch. He'll have to wait. He's really excited, apparently. So
No, and people, I mean, we gotta wrap this up, but people have even asked, like, the one that people ask all the time is like, if you're okay. Like, people are always like, hey, are you all right? Are you okay? Like that was initially, I think, a lot of people's reaction. And then once I started interacting and dialoguing with people and they saw this excitement, right? They see the smile and like, they're like, oh shit, like he's not just okay, like he's jacked up. And then it's like, what's next? Like, what are you doing now? Like, and then I think it's more curiosity for them. But it's funny because just yesterday I was at a Super Bowl party, right? And I got home and my wife, like after we got home, she was like, yeah, it's so funny. She's like, so-and-so was asking me if you're doing okay. And then like later on, they were like, they're like, now I'm asking if he's okay for a different reason, right? Like before I was like, is he okay? Like I'm worried about him. Now that I've talked to him for like 20 minutes at the Super Bowl party, I'm like, is he okay? Like, is he gonna go buy a sports car tomorrow? Like, is he gonna like tour Europe by himself? What's he doing? Like, he seems like he's 20 years old. So it is. That's a lot of fun. Now, don't be worried about me. That's honest. Nobody worry about me.
That's awesome, dude. Well, hey man, there's a lot of big things to come. We'll visit again, and I just love what you have to share, man, and all you're about and what you bring to our industry and the people in our community. And man, we're happy to have you a part of our EXP community officially. So welcome to the Synergy Properties Group. I think everyone in the Spokane real estate market associated and affiliated with EXP is excited about this, because it just amplifies what EXP is doing on a global basis, but it brings it into your market. So thanks, man. Welcome officially to EXP. We're glad you're doing okay. We're glad you're not checking yourself into any places, mental facilities or anything.
Right? No.
We're glad financially you're okay. You're not like filing bankruptcy tomorrow. You didn't lose all your real estate or anything, man. We're just glad you just made a little shift, dude, and now it's brought some new energy to you and a whole new level of focus, man. So big things ahead.
Thank you guys. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
Welcome.